Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
You're listening to another Big Buck Breakdown from the Element Podcast. What's happening, Alma Woods people? Goodness, it feels good today, man.
This is like paradise.
This is going away soon. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, it's not going to be near as bad as it ever was.
But it was 90. It's supposed to be 92 on Thursday.
And then what's supposed to be Friday?
Well, very good. Very good and rainy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going away here in about a day or so, and that's unfortunate. But I think it's starting to, like you said, it's gonna down and to the right, kind of like. So hopefully we can get out and kill something soon in this good weather, because if not, then I don't know what we've been waiting on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what is the early season supposed to be here in Texas?
We went out and gave it a really good shot yesterday.
Yeah.
But when you break it down, it's still October 7th, even though it felt like a really, really good October 7th. And It wasn't a terrible hunting day.
No, it wasn't.
No.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Like I think that, I don't know, I had some remorse, or whatever you might call it, regret that I didn't go hunting this morning when I woke up.
It felt really good.
It was like, my kids were like, it's cold outside. Like,
we turned the heater on.
We need jackets. Yeah. Like, I turned my AC off. It either runs or it doesn't. You have to have it on or off pretty much. And so it was running all night. I got up. I was like, man, it's pretty cold. So I turned it off, and I have not turned anything on since, So, and we're sitting here at 1 o'clock or whatever it is. So it feels good outside. It felt good this morning, and I started to regret pretty immediately that we didn't go back at it, which we had planned on doing this morning. But, traveling around to different parcels of public here in our state, at least, is, it's not friendly to your gas budget and time and everything like that. And so when we were looking at it, we were like, man, we kind of both have to be back this afternoon. We can't hunt. And so a morning hunt, to go out and take a chance on, like you said, October 8th, it's still October 8th, I mean, there's things happening. It's cooled off. I know a lot of people are seeing a lot of deer moving with this cold front, but in the end, like, would we be better sitting a cold front now, or saving that gas money and, brownie points or whatever, and going out on October 23rd or whatever, instead?
That'd be nice.
So,
well, the thing is, man, that's something that I've been kind of thinking about, is there's a sliding scale as you go down southward from the northern border of the United States of, like, say, what's October, the first week of October here is actually the last week of September in Missouri, and then north of that, it's the midweek of September. You know what I'm saying there? Yeah. So like
weather-wise, for the most part, and I guess
the way the deer are acting.
Yeah.
Like, so October 7th for us is probably a lot more like what I don't know, October 20th or something is like for someone, say, in Minnesota, which is where our guest for today is
from.
I
like this.
Tony Peterson.
Dang, you're good, dude.
The big buck killer himself. Tony's killed a giant buck in Minnesota, and we're going to talk to him about that here in a little bit. But I think that we kind of, if you start looking at that, like, man, yesterday, the October 7th cold front, it's probably a lot like a mid-September cold front for a lot of the Midwest and stuff, you know? So it's just a really, really weird time to try to go and kill a deer in a cold front because, I mean, really, in most years, we could probably be hunting like a water pattern or something, you know, where it's really hot, which it was 2 days before.
Yeah.
And I'm not downing the cold front, but as we go into October further, their value is going to increase drastically.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I've seen it the last few years hunting our buddy Cody's property. You know, I have permission to shoot does only and no bucks. But when I see little bucks come out and that kind of thing when I'm hunting over there, I think it was like the 22nd of October or something like that, maybe the 20th, a couple of years ago. Before I shot my doe, I had seen some bucks come out and they started scraping and kind of like looked like they wanted to fight. I think they might have even put their horns together, but not too amped up, but like enough that you're like, yeah, man, they're starting to kind of act like it a little bit. And we actually saw a little bit of that happen yesterday. We had a good morning hunt. We saw 9 deer on public land, which is outstanding for us here in Texas. And then
at one point in time, Tyler goes, "There's deer everywhere."
They were. It was like people would laugh at that. Including my buddy Anthony, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, texted us. He went out yesterday afternoon and was like, "Oh yeah, I saw 30 does and three bucks, you know." And this is on public as well. It's in a different state, and it's like, well, you know, be glad you don't hunt in East Texas anymore because it is a different story here. 9 is good for us, man.
Yeah.
It's like as good of a hunt as we've ever had, probably as far as numbers go. And then we went out and had a lot more typical hunt that afternoon.
But you were saying that we observed like some buck action in that hunt, right?
Yep. Pretty good bit of fighting between a couple of little bucks.
10 minutes worth. Like, it wasn't like they were trying to gore each other in the guts with antlers or anything, but they were. Well, it was funny because they were both like little spiky kind of guys. One of them was probably 15 pounds bigger, maybe more than the other one, which you and I kind of discussed. Why is that? It's kind of strange. But anyways, they fought for quite a while, but it sounded like deer fighting when you knew what it was. But when you didn't know what it was dink, dink, dink. And it's
not
like,
enough
what?
times.
Yeah, not enough times to make the right noise. I remember I looked at you and was like, what's something out there rubbing on a tree? Before we knew what was going on.
Yeah, we did. We didn't know what was going on at first. But
we saw all those deer from that place and kind of reassessed our stand locations. We feel really good about that spot now because we think that the major deer movement is going to be coming right in front of this one tree that we kind of went in and hung stands in to make sure it was going to be okay. And then we hung a trail camera in there as well, which it's a place that we had a camera last year that treated us really, really well. And we took the the Exodus Trek that no one won because we didn't get enough reviews, and we hung it down there. And we wanted to use that camera because it takes really good photos, really good trigger speed, and we hung it in probably the best funnel I know of in East Texas down there.
It's in a good spot, man. And we had a camera there last year. And some of the frustrations we had with that camera are slow trigger speed, narrow field of view, and it got foggy a lot, which I don't know what causes that, but it just seems like a cheap camera gets foggy more often, you know? And, anyway, we had it down there all year. It's real far back in there, so it's not fun to go get. It did us well. I mean, we got kind of quite a bit of info that we could use, but we're excited to have a little bit better trail camera down there this year. And, you know, thinking about it, like the reason we were down there, hunting yesterday and saw what we saw is basically because of that camera last year. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't maybe have hunted back down there yesterday if we didn't have all that good information from down there last year and also know that it's a funnel. But we had a trail camera, you know, up in a different area, maybe 200-300 yards from us there, that showed like nothing. We pulled it yesterday and it showed like no pictures of bucks, I don't think, were there?
No.
And so I guess the thought here is that if you're going to hang a trail camera it doesn't mean don't hunt if you're not seeing anything.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I mean, they're a great tool, and like I said, we wouldn't have hunted and seen 9 deer yesterday in that spot if we hadn't had the tool of a trail camera hanging down there.
Mm-hmm.
But everything has to be taken with a grain of salt, I think.
If we would have went in and pulled that card first, we would have been like, I don't know if we want to hunt here.
Mm-hmm.
But we went down and had a pretty good hunt.
Yeah.
More deer than we normally ever see at one spot in Texas. So if you take that and juxtapose it to our evening hunt, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's the best preseason card pull we had on Texas Public was from this place. We hung our stands 20 yards from the camera, if that, and we knew there were 2 sure bucks, one really good buck in there, and we did not see an animal bigger than a bird of prey the whole time we were in there.
He was very big in my eyes, at least.
It was pretty funny. So I was looking at Tyler, and he was looking at me. We were probably laughing about something.
We had just heard a noise.
Yeah, we had just heard a noise and thought like, oh, man, that's a deer.
They're coming out.
And then this hawk, I see like kind of swoops in, and I think he's coming to land on our camera arm. Is all I could figure, and it's between Tyler and I.
It's behind me, though. Like I can't see.
And I know that my eyes got huge, and then instantaneously a hawk goes right by Tyler's head.
Dude, when I say 2 feet, that's not exaggerating.
Yeah, that's
you know
like
I mean?
the very conservative figure. It's not like we're so close. Like it literally was 2 feet from.
That's the closest a hawk's ever been to any big bird. Like I've had some little birds get close, but man, it's crazy.
It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, I had no time to react. Like I barely even could register in my mind that your eyes were getting big. And of course I'm thinking like a deer's walking out. But it just whipped by me. So
it was not that cool. It was cool, but it wasn't as cool as a deer walking out. Right
yeah, that's true. We would have used. We could have used it.
That was a tough night, man.
It was. You were about to shoot anything, man. And that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, at that place, it's a place that we know gets a lot of pressure later in the season. Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, don't really mind shooting a doe or a spiky over here or something, to eat because, come middle of November, this place is going to get raged by individuals.
I think it's already getting a touch raged.
I think it might be.
Yep.
I think it might be. Our big buck might have gotten raged literally. We don't know for
Rage
sure.
in the cage.
But we didn't see him. And it looked like there had been another hunter in there recently. So, I don't know. That's Texas Public for you, man. It's not a lot of deer habitat and a lot of hunters.
Yep, it is, man. Anyway, I guess, is there anything else we need to talk about before we get Tony on the line?
No, there's just... y'all go check out the continuation of the Gila hunt on YouTube. Video 2 is posted and video 3 is upcoming soon.
Hopefully tonight, man.
It's really cool. There's not giant elk in video 2. I'm going to go ahead and give the spoiler, but we chased some and there's a lot of fun stuff. And it's
big coos deer in part 2.
There it is. Big.
Coys.
And then we decided we're going to call them. Everybody wants to call them something different, so we're going to make up our own name for them. But anyways, go check that out. Get ready for Tony Peterson because, man, is there a cooler cucumber than Tony Peterson?
Yeah, dude. He's just got I don't know. I don't want to sound like man crushing or nothing, but he's a cool dude. He's actually become, I feel like a pretty good friend, a guy that I can rely on to help me out when I need some information or a new spin on something when I'm looking at public and that kind of thing. Because he's even though we're talking about a deer he killed on private, he hunts a lot of public land, and that's cool. But so is killing a big deer on private.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm wishing right now that I could have had a private piece around here to hunt where I didn't have to get up at 3:30 or 4,
And his private land experience is a little bit different than the solo permission thing.
It's a lot more public-like.
Yeah, exactly. He comes from a part of the country where, door knocking's a thing, and a lot of people get, so it's pretty high stakes over there too. But we'll let him tell the rest of the story.
All right, well, let's get him on the line. All right, now on the phone we have Tony Peterson. He runs the Hunt for Real podcast, which is for real hunting, right, Tony?
As real as we can get it, buddy.
That's right, man. That's what we've been talking about off air a little bit, is how real everything is, man, sometimes, and how not real sometimes it is. And I'm glad to have a buddy in you, man, that we can chat about the things that matter and the things that don't and be on the same page with.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate it, man.
Sure thing. Yeah. So I was saying earlier that your podcast is one of the only ones I listen to in the hunting spectrum right now. It's a good podcast. So if you're listening, go check it out. We'll link to it in the show notes. But Tony, you had some success this year already, quite a bit, and so we've picked one, and it is I guess it's a kind of a hometown buck that you have had luck with. Is that right?
It used to be my hometown for sure. I got really lucky when I was 15. I got permission to bow hunt a dairy farm in southeastern Minnesota. And every year I call up the farmer in March, and every year he gives me the thumbs up. And so that's the one place in my home state that I can go scout all year round and shed hunt and hang stands and trim some shooting lanes and run cameras and do like it's so different than the show up at public land and turn and burn and hang and hunt. And so it's really like my guilty pleasure spot. I just love it so much because I can do all the year round whitetail work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's interesting when you start to hunt a lot of public, then you kind of it almost makes you appreciate those private spots that you have more, just because it's a whole different. You approach it differently a lot of times, and you can be more conservative, and you have more history with those deer, and you learn more about them, and just all these different things. I know that personally, when I hunt private, a lot of times I see more deer, so I learn more in a hunt, even when I'm just in the single hunt. So it's pretty cool, man. That's I saw the pictures of the buck. I don't know the story. You killed a velvet buck earlier this year in Nebraska that was also a toad, and I got to talk to you about that because we were in Nebraska kind of at the same time, I guess, and I was struggling and you weren't, so I figured I'd get in touch with you and see how I was supposed to kill a deer. And so I know that story, but tell us the rundown on this Minnesota buck.
Yeah, man. So I knew, I had done several days of glassing and had been running cameras, and my buddy Eric I hunt with a lot, the guy who killed the big one with me in Nebraska this year. He and I worked together on this farm a lot. He's got permission to hunt there too. And so we had put some time in. We went shed hunting this spring, and I had a good day, and I found a shed from a buck that he's been out there quite a few years. And this was the year where I'm like, this buck's going to be probably a legitimate typical booner. And I've had maybe 2 or 3 chances in my life where I thought I could hunt a deer that caliber. Mm-hmm. And so we mostly set up stands for that buck. He moved into this valley, and it was kind of like, we're going to pin every corner of that valley and, try to get on that deer. But knowing that there's other parts of the farm where sometimes you can just pick up a gimme on a field edge opening weekend where you'll get a big one who hasn't been harassed yet. And so we hung one stand over an alfalfa field that's kind of tucked in, and it's not as good as beans usually, but the way things were setting up as it started to get closer to the season, I'm like, well, the beans are going to probably be yellow. There's going to be people sitting on, and by the way, none of the beans were on the farm I could hunt. So I'm playing deer going to it and coming back. Mm-hmm. So my next best bet was to sit on alfalfa. Let me put it that way. And if, that alfalfa was by a good bedding area and it had some really nice white oaks, and it was just one of those places that offered the deer a lot. And so, opening morning comes, and I sneak into this spot that kind of a staging area for the morning. It takes a long time to get in there. And I knew I probably wouldn't run into the big one in there, but there was another buck on the farm that's he's got 3 antlers, and he's really cool. His third antler is a lot bigger than they usually it's like a little dagger or something, if you even see it. Mm-hmm. And this one came out and forked, and I thought maybe that buck would be in there. So I slipped in way early, and it was hot. It was probably upper 60s at least going out in the morning. And at 7:30, I hear voices in the woods, and I'm like, this is so weird. It was pretty calm. I'm like, why can't I hear people talking? And then a chainsaw fires up 150 yards away from me. No. And so I'm like, well, they're between me and where I expect the deer to come from. So I'm like, this hunt's kind of blown. And so I got out. I'm like, all right, well, I'll make a plan for tonight to slip in on this. It was going to be hot. It was going to be 80 degrees. And I had a little pond that booner was hitting once in a while. I'm like, that's, opening night. It's going to be hot. He's going to hit that. And so I get out of the woods, go meet up with Eric, and he tells me he's surfing Facebook, and he sees this guy that I don't know him. Eric knows him. And he said, yeah, I don't know if you're going to want to hunt that end of the woods, because they were in there squirrel hunting this morning. And they posted pictures of it. Eric knew where it was. I'm like, okay, so now one end of where this booner lives, they're cutting wood, and they were cutting wood in there all day. And then the other end, there's a dude with his kid and they're squirrel hunting. And I'm like, this is probably, and this is private, but there's a lot of people that have permission to be in there. And so I'm like, okay, now it's backup time. And the other two parts of the farm, I'm like, well, I'll probably just go sit a field edge, because I knew there were a lot of really quality bucks in both spots. So I leave way early, because we have a rule on that farm with the other hunters. If you're parked in one spot, then people will leave you alone and go hunt somewhere else. So I'm like, I got to get in there. And I drive out to where I was thinking about going, and there's already a bow hunter going in. So I talk to him, and he goes off and hunts. I'm like, well, I got one spot left, and it's that alfalfa stand. And the wind was right, because the south wind blowing. And I knew, even though I didn't know who had probably moved into that bedding area, I knew one of the big bucks in the area would probably claim that spot. And so, like, it's kind of like my only option, but it wasn't like a bad option. It just wasn't my first choice. And so I got in there, got set up. Wind's good. Turkeys feed through. They don't see me. I have good cover. See a doe and a little spotted fawn come out, probably the smallest fawn I've ever seen during hunting season. They feed off. I see a buck come out finally, and he's a nice one. He's like a real solid 3.5-year-old buck, but he's probably 125 yards away. And I'm like, do I want to shoot that buck when I know I've got a lot of bigger deer around? And, fortunately for me, he didn't come in. So I didn't have to make the actual call.
Yeah.
But as I'm watching this buck, he's like staring in my direction, and I'm like, he can't see me. Why does he keep looking over here? And at one point I hear something walking. I look, and this doe comes through 18 yards away, perfect trail, spills out into the alfalfa, wide open shot. And I'm like, oh man, if a big one does that, he's in trouble. And so she gets into the field, sees these other deer at the other end, trots over there, and they're all just feeding. I'm like, oh, this is like an hour before dark. I mean, it's good. And so I'm sitting there, and I hear this side by side that this farm is split by a minimum maintenance road. And so nobody lives on it, but people drive it all the time. And so I hear this side by side. I assume that's what it was. I couldn't see it. It was a 4-wheeler or a side by side, just creeping up the road. And I'm like, God dang it, I hope they don't pull down in here. And because I'm, maybe 500 yards off of it and down a hill, so I can't see it, but I can hear it. And as soon as that side-by-side slowed down, every deer in that field picked their head up and took off. Just blew out of there. And I'm like, man, what is going on? It's opening night. They shouldn't be this cagey. So this is like a half hour before dark, and I have no deer in the field, nothing going on. And I'm like, I have had people around me the entire time I've hunted today. And so I'm sitting there, hear something behind me, look, a couple of raccoons work through under me, and then they go back off. And I heard something. I'm like, man, I don't think that was a raccoon. And I look back, and under this oak tree, I heard a stick snap, and I saw this flash of white. I'm like, man, that looked like a rack. And 18 yards away on that same trail that doe took, here comes this 8-pointer that I hadn't seen him in person, but I found his antler 2 years ago, and I had a few pictures of him, and I knew this was a really good 8-pointer. As soon as he started walking out, I'm like, oh man, I'm opening night or not, I'm shooting that buck. And he spilled into the alfalfa at 18 yards, and I drew when he walked out, put my pin behind his shoulder. And I mean, this is chip shot. There's nothing between me and him but air and opportunity, And I put my pin on there, and I'm just about to shoot, and that buck just starts walking. And in my brain, I'm like, either move your pin or stop him. And instead I just shot. It was like I was too committed, and that arrow zipped through him. And my first thought was, you shouldn't have done that. And he ran toward the edge of the field where those other deer had been standing, and stopped and hunched up. And so I glassed him, and I'm like, man, I could see the entrance wound. I'm like, that looks good. Like, it looks like he should be tipping over. And he stood there for a few minutes like that. And then it looked like he almost started to do the wobble and caught himself and hit the edge of that field where the timber was. And as soon as his head got in that timber, he bedded down. So his butt was actually sticking out toward the edge of the field. Mm-hmm. And I just waited till dark to slip out behind him. And the last time I glassed him, I was like, man, I think he I think he tipped over, but it was so dark I couldn't tell. And so got out, went and met up with Eric. We gave it 2 hours, came back in and checked my arrow. It was covered in blood, and walked over there, and he was laying right there.
Nice.
Man.
It was wild.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, it's a pretty awesome buck. I actually didn't look at it until we got back from our trip, so I didn't really know how big it was. And when you say a big 8-point, for a lot of the country, it's a freaking toad, right? Like giant bladed, G2 on the left side, like just a dream buck, man.
So typical.
Yeah,
and pretty.
just like I bet you there's a half inch of deductions if you were to measure the thing, if you're a score guy. But like it's just so typical and so beautiful, and huge congrats on it. One of the things I guess that kind of like comes to mind is you're kind of the public land guy, and it's the thing you do, and not that one's better than the other or anything, but I just kind of wonder, like, whenever you do approach this private land situation, does your mentality shift towards, like, really trying to kill a big buck and thinking about, comparing, what he might score or age class and that sort of thing, or do you still kind of have that same mentality of want to go shoot a good representative of the species, and if one walks out, I'm taking it?
Man, it all depends on how it goes. This year I was I was prepared to be more selective this year because in Minnesota, our gun season opens pretty much the first Saturday in November. Mm-hmm. And so it might open on anywhere from like November 3rd to November 9th. And so you can't count on the rut here if you're a bow hunter.
Yeah.
And that farm that I hunt, there's 3 groups of shotgun hunters that go through there, and there's like an average of 15 guys in each group. Ooh. So it's not, I don't gun hunt it, and I don't, I'm not going to go sit with a bow when the landowner's family and everybody's out there. So it's like you either get it done in September or October, or you don't. Mm-hmm. But this year our gun season is, I think, November 9th. And so I had like 8 days off before that. They were, marked off on the calendar. And so this year I was like, I want to kill a good one. I have the time, I have the stands, there's plenty of them out there. And it just so happened that the first buck that gave me a shot was this 8-pointer that was, was this really solid deer that I wouldn't have passed up any time. Mm-hmm. And so it was just, it's situational,
Yeah, for sure. And I get that. And that's, it's cool. And I definitely would not be passing that deer anywhere in the country either. So it's a toad, man. And I understand you're in like southern Minnesota there. Is that's some of the stuff that, I know there's some controversial like CWD regulations and stuff that moved in through southern Minnesota. Is that something that you kind of have to play in there as well, as far as like when you're evaluating, what you're going to take off that property?
Big time. Yeah. So I literally last night just checked my CWD results, and he's negative, which makes me real happy.
Yeah.
But that was the other thing about this year. I kind of wanted to go for broke this year because we've had antler point restrictions since 2010.
Yeah.
And it has changed the hunting. I mean, I've hunted all the big buck states, and southeastern Minnesota has turned into Iowa quality all day long. It's incredible. Well, this year with the CWD,
you want to tell everybody that? Oh, come on.
It doesn't matter now. It's gone. So there's no antler point restrictions this year in most of the zones down there. There's a couple on like the fringe that are still. And so, it remains to be seen how many positives show up, what the DNR's response is, and whether we'll ever get that back. But this, to me was an example. I grew up hunting there, and I used to spend a lot more time in that region, and it would take like an entire season to encounter a 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. And now, with the antler point restrictions kicking in and the ground down there, it was like you never knew what was coming over the hill. It changed everything, and it made it so much more fun. I saw so much more fighting and actual deer activity. And now, we might slide back to the dark ages. I don't know where we'll end up now,
Man, that sounds, I guess, in one way exciting, in one way kind of depressing. How'd you, as far as like the CWD test kit, how'd you get a hold of one of those?
That's one thing I'll say about the Minnesota DNR. They set up this system where you can either drop your head off, or if you're going to mount it, you can cape it out. And then you can check out a little YouTube tutorial on how to take the lymph nodes out. Mm-hmm. And it's real simple. They made it really simple, other than they didn't have the drop-off sites updated on their website on day one. And so I'm like, I can't take any of the carcass out, the bones and the, nervous system and all that stuff. So it's like I had to call around a little bit to figure that out, because they have drop sites with dumpsters. Mm-hmm. But I think they got that squared away. But really, it wasn't a horrible pain. I mean, it was just, a few extra steps and a little trip down the road, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Like I'm going to be hunting in 2 different CWD areas this year, I think. Well, actually 3 if you include Nebraska, I guess. So, and I didn't kill there, but it's something that I feel like, if the state doesn't offer like a drop-off site, you kind of have to be prepared for that. You have to order a kit and before you go and have it with you and know what you're doing. So that's one thing, like that's something that I have thought about in the last few years, is like something that could be streamlined a little more effectively, if you ask me, and a little more education could probably be. I mean, like, people are educated about CWD in general now and that it exists, but how do we help the DNR and all these different wildlife departments? How do we help them get results and understand where and how this disease is spreading? So
yeah, I mean, my wish on that would be that we would devote some money to coming up with a simple home test. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because once you pull those lymph nodes out one time, it's an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's not difficult, and if they had something you could run at home and figure out if that deer was positive, it would at least give a lot of people peace of mind. Sure. And it would really provide, an opportunity to map what's going on with this. And that, that's the thing about CWD, that a lot of people have their minds made up that it's either a nothing burger or it's the end of deer hunting. And we just don't know. Mm-hmm. And, there are a lot of people out there saying, well, this is, it's been around a million years, and they're saying a lot of things that we honestly don't know what's going on yet.
Yeah.
And so to kind of like dig in and be like, it doesn't matter, it's been here forever. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. I just wish we had more tools at our own disposal to help deal with this and go, hey, is this really a nothing burger, or should we be real concerned,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, man. Well, congrats on your deer, Tony. It's an awesome buck, and man, you've had a great season so far, so hopefully that'll continue on for you. What's happening next for you, I guess?
I am washing the blood off my pack, and I'm heading to North Dakota here in a couple days.
Man, that sounds exciting. Is that public land hunt, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got buck tags left in North Dakota and Nebraska, or not Nebraska, Wisconsin, and I'll be North Dakota's all public land. Wisconsin will be mostly public land, and then I'm going to turn into a bird hunter.
Dude, see, and you like the bird stuff a lot, right?
Oh man, I do. I was just chatting with a landowner here in the Twin Cities this morning, and he said, you can go duck hunt my pond anytime you want. And it's like 3 minutes from my house. And I'm like, man, it almost made me want to cancel my North Dakota trip, because I drive by this stupid thing all the time, and there are ducks using it, but I'm not. I'm going to go try to fill that North Dakota tag. Then I'm going to come back and take out the dog and go see if I can shoot some greenheads and some woodies. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome, man. I'm kind of similar in that stand. KC's not so much, but I love bird hunting, man. I grew up just shooting a shotgun every day, it seemed like, and it was just something that I love doing. I love wing shooting. I'm intrigued by the migrations a lot. It's just such a cool concept to me. Such an amazing thing that happens. So I'm with you on that. Maybe we can go hunt birds sometime together.
Definitely, buddy.
Well, cool, man. Well, what's the best place for people to listen to the podcast and get in touch with you?
They can. I host 2 podcasts, Hunt for Real and Sporting Dog Talk, and they're iTunes and everywhere else you can find podcasts. We've got the social media thing going for both of them, YouTube channels, the whole thing. So not too hard to find, and we're just grinding away on getting good episodes out right now.
Yeah, well, you're doing a good job, man. I appreciate the content you put out. It's helpful and it's relatable. I like it a lot, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Tony. Well, congrats and good luck the rest of the year, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Man, I know this isn't up your alley, but Tony's got me juiced up about the bird hunting thing, man. What in the world?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not up my alley. I think that maybe waterfowl isn't my biggest thing. But if I could go and slay, what's the limit? 2 pheasants a day?
You're more of a quail hunter.
I would love to do some upland hunting, man.
It's fun.
It's freaking cool.
It's also weird how like only rich guys do that. It seems like, I mean, I've done it before, but like I don't know if I've ever hunted behind dogs.
I think maybe only rich guys travel and do it.
Yeah, like hardcore.
I think there's a lot of Midwesterners.
But I will say this: there's no way that Tony is an outdoor rider and is rich. So
that's true.
Somehow he's found a way to break the system. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true, man. But I think there's a lot of like hometowners on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what? Something's really intrigued me lately is the grouse hunting or whatever they are, kind of more in that Midwest, like eastern side of the Midwest stuff, like.
Ohio stuff?
Yeah, we know people like in Minnesota and like Wisconsin that are shooting some type of upland bird. I think it's a grouse. I don't really know. It's like, that's kind of cool.
You don't think of it. You think of it as a Rocky Mountain kind of deal.
I think of like blue grouse. I don't really
yeah.
think of them existing, or prairie chickens or whatever they are. I don't think of them existing like in the eastern woodland kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Dude, upland hunting. I just love wing shooting, man. I just love, like, it's just such an exciting thing and, like, such a challenge. Sometimes, man, when, like, birds are just so unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like, they just can go anywhere and you make you look like a fool, and then some days you just can't miss, I guess, I don't know. I'm speaking for myself here, but some people probably can't miss all the time. But, I have days where I shoot really well, and then some days, like, there'll be a couple birds where I'm like, man, I'm just going to make a bunch of excuses for this right now.
I got new shot shells,
Yeah.
I should have bought those 7.5.
That's right. You know what? That Winchester ain't worth anything. Anyway, so Tony's deer is an awesome buck. We're going to be posting some pictures of it on social here pretty soon, so you guys can take a look at it if you haven't seen it on his channels or anything. But anyway, Tony's just a great talk, man. I appreciate him coming on the podcast. I also would like to thank Exodus Trail Cameras for allowing us to bring this to you guys again this year. Those guys have been really tight with us throughout the last couple of years, so go support them if you support us. And what else, Casey? We got more videos from the elk hunt releasing.
We do, and we've got some Texas hunts coming up pretty quick too. That'll be coming out. Killed a big old pig. Probably put that up on the YouTube channel. So be sure and go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not. Don't just go watch it.
Yeah,
subscribing us helps, guys, and hit the notification bell.
That's right. It's weird. You can be a subscriber to our channel. And this blows my mind because I've done this on other channels. I subscribe to channels that I like too. And when I do that, it's like I don't see their videos for like 3 months. I'm like, what in the world? I thought I subscribed to this channel. And then I see one come in, suggested, and I'm like, why haven't I been seeing these? And the issue is, you can't just, like, a subscriber is literally almost just a number.
Yeah.
But like when you hit the bell for notifications, you actually get like emails sent to you and stuff that says, hey, so and so has uploaded another video. So if you want to stay in the loop or whatever, make sure you hit the bell.
In those videos, you will see Tyler and I adorning. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
Adorning.
And adoring.
Adoring. We're very adorable. We're very adorable in our new color for an Element T-shirt. And
right.
I like our old olive shirts.
Yeah, me too.
They're comfortable. These new orange shirts are freaking cool.
Yeah,
we both wore ours yesterday. Yeah, that's the thing is they're a touch thicker, not much. Like it's a good feel though.
Yeah.
Like it's a good feeling T-shirt. Bright, I think blaze orange is the word we're looking for here, so that you can wear it if you're upland hunting, like we were talking about a while ago.
That's right.
Or if you are on some public in Texas, or otherwise, if you're in like you got to wear orange in your gun state or whatever, you can rock these shirts and be legal and be cool like we were yesterday.
And I may be different than other guys, but
you are.
I think I am. If I'm out scouting, I mean, I can literally be, if I'm scouting in January and it's 30 degrees, like a T-shirt is okay for me.
Oh, yeah.
So
as long as it's not windy.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if I'm walking and I'm not like stopping too much, I mean, I get hot. Like I like walking in the woods when it's pretty cold, Texan cold at least. And so,
P5.
to me, like putting a Blaze T-shirt on, it's the perfect solution.
It is,
I've bought
man.
the construction worker shirt before and worn the construction Blaze or whatever in the woods, and it's worked. But you get a chance to support us by buying this shirt, I guess, and helping us to just kind of keep this thing as ad free as possible.
Where can they get that, Tyler?
This is at our website right now, and that website's theelementwild.com. So you can go there and hit the shop tab at the top, and that is that'll lead you. You'll see it. I think first thing will be our Blaze Orange Element logo tee.
Pop.
It's got an 8-point under an oak tree. I think he's eating acorns. I can't really tell, but
he's kind of just frisky.
Is he? Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I thought he was kind of like. He did kind of the one-eyed Jack thing where he like comes in, he's like following a doe, and so he's got his head low, and then he all of a sudden he's like, oh, there's an acorn, and he eats it, and then he keeps on going.
Yeah, he's multitasking.
He definitely is. It's like food on the run during the rut. It's the best of both worlds. So but yeah, that's while you're at the website, you can actually see our season playlist as well. We've got a season tab, so you can keep up with what's been going on the season playlist if you're not subscribed to YouTube or you don't spend much time there. So yeah, anyway, got a few things on the website. Check it out. Anything else, KC? I think that's going to be about it. Probably.
That's it, man. Y'all be excited about the upcoming cold fronts. We got a lot of good podcasts coming to you, and there's a lot of good hunting in the future. So good luck, everybody. Season's here, man.
That's right, man.
Golly, we're right in the middle of it.
I know. It feels good, and things. I'm about to be traveling a bunch, so y'all wish me luck. Say a prayer for me, and I hope you guys are going to have a good season as well. I know a lot of guys, it just gets better from this point forward. So get out there and get after it as much as you can. Save up your brownie points for November and go do it. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.